The boy who could barely speak a sentence without stumbling became the man who made the entire world laugh without saying a word. Rowan Atkinson's life is one of the most remarkable contradictions in the history of entertainment. A deeply private, anxiety-ridden perfectionist who built a global empire out of physical comedy, facial expressions, and characters so vivid they overshadowed the real man behind them. Now, at 70, the full picture of his journey is finally coming into focus. Rowan Sebastian Atkinson was born on January 6, 1955, in Consett, a small town in County Durham, England. He was the youngest of 4 boys. Though tragedy visited the family early, his eldest brother Paul died as an infant, leaving just 3 brothers to grow up together. One of those brothers, Rodney, would go on to become an economist and came remarkably close to leading the UK Independence Party in the year 2000. The family lived on a farm, and life was quiet, disciplined, and largely unremarkable from the outside. No one who knew young Rowan then could have predicted what he would become. Around the age of 5, Rowan developed a serious stutter. Words wouldn't come out smoothly, and the harder he tried, the worse it got. School became a daily ordeal. At Durham Chorister's School, the bullying was relentless. Canon John Grove, who worked there, remembered Rowan as a shy boy with a rubbery face and a noticeable speech problem. His classmates were cruel. Some called him an alien, mocking the way he looked and the way he talked. He spent most of his time alone, isolated not by choice but by circumstance. One of his schoolmates during those years was Tony Blair, 2 years his junior, who later became British Prime Minister. Even Blair acknowledged how difficult things were for Rowan during that period. A 2007 article in The Independent revisited the bullying he endured. What those classmates couldn't have known was that the very strangeness they mocked, the rubbery face, the unusual expressions, the physical awkwardness, would one day captivate hundreds of millions of people worldwide. Something extraordinary happened when Rowan stepped onto a stage. His stutter vanished completely. Not reduced, not managed, gone. The moment he inhabited a character, the words flowed freely. That discovery became the foundation of everything that followed. His childhood pain didn't just shape him, it became the engine of his genius. Despite the social struggles, Rowan excelled academically. He earned top grades in his science A-levels and won a place at Newcastle University in 1973, where he studied electrical and electronic engineering at just 18 years old. He graduated in 1975 and then followed his father's footsteps to the Queen's College, Oxford, pursuing a master's degree. His MSc focused on the highly complex field of self-tuning control systems, and he even began work on a PhD before something inside him pulled him elsewhere. His teacher at Oxford, Chris Robson, later recalled that Rowan didn't stand out in the classroom. But the moment he stepped on stage, he became an entirely different person. That transformation began taking shape in 1975 when Rowan joined Oxford's drama club and a review group called the Etc. It was there that he met a young writer named Richard Curtis, a meeting that would alter the course of both their lives. Richard saw Rowan perform for the first time at a rehearsal in early 1976. He later described seeing a quiet, funny-looking man standing in the corner of the room, and then watching in disbelief as that man stepped forward and performed a sketch about driving, miming while speaking simultaneously. Richard called it pure genius. In August 1976, Rowan performed with the Oxford Review at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe for the first time, stepping in front of a large national audience. The show was a success, and suddenly his path was clear. He was no longer simply an engineer with an unusual hobby. He was a performer. His technical background never fully left him, though. Years later, he would become one of the first celebrities to embrace electric vehicles, purchasing his first hybrid car 18 years before 2023 and his first fully electric car even earlier. He also used that engineering knowledge to publicly question the environmental claims surrounding EV technology, sometimes controversially. Between 1978 and 1979, things got difficult. Rowan tried repeatedly to break into television, and the BBC rejected him again and again. They didn't understand his comedy. His stutter worsened during auditions and interviews, making an already stressful process feel impossible. At his lowest point, he seriously considered abandoning comedy altogether and returning to engineering. But he kept returning to a crucial discovery. When he played a character, the stutter disappeared. He didn't need to speak perfectly as himself. The characters could do the talking for him. That realization changed everything. In 1979, he created a radio show for BBC Radio 3 called The Atkinson People, playing a range of fictional characters including Sir Corin Basin and French philosopher George Dupont. Richard Curtis helped write it, and Griff Rhys-Jones produced it. The show was intelligent and funny, but it aired in a slot not designed for comedy and attracted very few listeners. Still, critics recognized the talent on display. That same year, Rowan returned to the Edinburgh Fringe, this time at 24 years old. He was even spotted helping build the stage and clear rubble at the new Wireworks Theatre. His show was almost entirely silent, echoing the great physical comedians like Buster Keaton. Some audience members didn't connect with it and walked out. Others recognized something extraordinary: a performer who could express volumes without words, using only his face and body. That performance helped open the right doors. In 1979, the BBC finally gave Rowan a chance on a new sketch comedy show called Not the 9 O'Clock News. The first episode aired on October 16, 1979, and it was a disaster. Fewer than 1 million viewers tuned in. Critics hated it. Some called it offensive. His future co-star Mel Smith said it was the worst half hour of television he had ever watched. But the BBC controller liked it enough to order another series, and that single decision changed British comedy forever. Aimed. So they did something almost unheard of in television. They walked away at the height of their success, choosing mental health and creative integrity over money and fame. On June 15th, 19 working alongside Pamela Stephenson, Mel Smith, and Griff Rhys-Jones, Rowan helped build the show into one of the most important comedy programs in British television history. Behind the scenes, tensions ran high. When co-star Chris Langham was fired after the first series, Rowan fought to keep him out of loyalty, but his efforts failed. The resulting fallout was bitter enough that Langham refused to speak to any of them for years. One sketch during the second series became legendary. In Gerald the Gorilla, Mel Smith played a professor claiming to have trained a gorilla named Gerald. Rowan played Gerald in a full gorilla suit, and when the professor mentioned catching him in the wild in 1968, Gerald exploded with the line, "Wild." I was absolutely livid. The sketch became so famous that real scientists began jokingly calling groups of baboons a flange, directly referencing it. The show went on to win the Silver Rose at the Montreux Festival in 1982 and a BAFTA for Best Light Entertainment Program. In an unexpected twist, the cast also released a comedy song called I Like Trucking as part of the album Hedgehog Sandwich. It charted. Rowan, who had no musical background, actually drove the truck in the sketch himself, holding a real Class 1 lorry license at the time. That small, authentic detail made it even funnier. By 1982, the cast had reached a breaking point. The pace, the pressure, the constant writing and performing, it had all become too much. Rowan, who had long battled anxiety, was particularly 83. Rowan launched the Blackadder alongside Richard Curtis. Set in an alternate history where Richard III won the Battle of Bosworth Field, the show was a grand and expensive gamble. It was partly funded by Australia's 7 Network, filmed at Alnwick Castle with enormous sets and period costumes, and even included a joke in the credits attributing additional dialogue to William Shakespeare. The first series was troubled from the start. Rain ruined shoots, the budget spiraled, and critics were underwhelmed. Only an International Emmy Award saved it from cancellation. For the second series in 1986, everything changed. Ben Elton joined as co-writer, bringing sharper jokes and tighter scripts. The massive location shoots were dropped. Miranda Richardson played a brilliantly absurd Queen Elizabeth, and Tony Robinson's Baldric transformed from a moderately sharp character into the beloved village idiot audiences adored. Rowan's Edmund Blackadder became sarcastic, calculating, and utterly compelling. The final series, Blackadder Goes Forth in 1989, was set in the trenches of World War I and became something no one anticipated, genuinely moving. The final scene, where the characters charge silently into no man's land in slow motion, remains one of the most emotionally devastating moments in television history. The show won Best Comedy Series at the 1990 BAFTAs. In 2004, it was voted second in a BBC poll for Britain's Best Sitcom, receiving over 282,000 votes. Rowan later said Blackadder was the least stressful project of his career because the burden was shared. Hugh Laurie, Stephen Fry, Tony Robinson, they all carried it together. Many of their improvised lines made it into the final episodes. It was, he said, a time that could never be recreated. The first episode of Mr. Bean aired on January 1st, 1990, and was watched by 18.74 million people. Rowan had conceived the character years earlier at Oxford. A childlike, nearly silent figure navigating an adult